All right. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how we doing?
Doing all right, Got some ups and downs with the sports, Wisconsin sports this weekend, but can't complain.
You got that right. I mean, there was the high of Wisconsin basketball upsetting number 9 Arizona on Friday night. There was, men's hockey and women's hockey winning, soccer winning as well. Everybody thought yesterday, including myself, oh my God, Wisconsin's going to knock off the number 1 team in the nation. Didn't happen. And unfortunately, there were consequences there was unfortunate consequences with that loss as Wisconsin fired up Phil Longo, tonight. So, it's unfortunate, but, when you come up short like that, that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yep.
And speaking of the way cookie crumbles, the Bucks have been crumbling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, lost last Sunday to the Boston Celtics. Close loss at home. 113-107. Just an overall just a frustrating game. I felt as though they had a shot to win at one point, but unfortunately weren't able to pull it off. So I guess from last Sunday's game, what did you see in Milwaukee's performance against Boston?
Yeah, it was really, kind of like how you said, there was a glimmer of hope, but it was really just up until the last quarter, really, they slowly started to kind of fall apart from there. I don't know. I just kind of felt the game went back and forth. Again, up until the very end. It's just kind of sucks when you kind of hold off some of the guys. On the Celtics, obviously Peyton Pritchard still had a good game, shocker. But when you hold Tatum to 31 points, but 13 of them are free throws, obviously something wasn't going well because he shot atrociously everywhere else. But yeah, no, just a lot of it was just not being able to finish it out and just kind of sloppy defense, per usual at that point. Again, another 12 turnover game. But no, I think one of their biggest issues for this game, even for some of their wins too, is the offensive rebounds. The Bucks continue to give teams 2 to 3 extra tries after forcing up a horrible shot. But just kind of they all watch the ball together and then no one picks it up and then they kick it back out to an open 3. So I just feel like one of their biggest issues is just really being able to appropriately box out and be but to just secure the miss that they just forced up, which I feel like could lead to a lot of these wins or some of these losses turning into wins. But no, it was really just the Giannis show and some other people contributed, but really outside of Giannis, no one did too much. Bobby shot 50% off the bench, but can't really do much when 43 is your highest score and then the next highest score is 15 points off the bench. So yeah, no one really showed up outside of Giannis. Lillard, another horrible shooting day. Andre Jackson Jr. again, he shot 3 baskets, only made 1 point from a free throw. So not just a lot of scoring again from the contributors outside of Giannis, which has been a continuing thing that we've seen throughout the season.
Yeah, it's been a continuing issue. And obviously Lillard's missed the past few games. This has actually been the last game we've seen Damian Lillard.
Yep.
He suffered a concussion, I believe.
Yeah, in this game from the ref.
I think the ref actually hit him in the face.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Lillard's been out the past few games with a concussion. But even without Lillard, I think this is a permanent litmus test for the Bucks to show that other people other than Giannis and Lillard could step up.
Mm-hmm.
That and look, there's been glimmer of oh my God, Taurean Prince is starting to score. And, they know Bobby can score. Okay? The problem I have with Bobby Portis is he's a net negative on defense.
Correct.
He's just a net negative on defense. I don't think he He's not a guy who's going to clear the glass. Okay. Especially not this year. I feel like this year it's been a significant drop off of defensively. I mean, at least like the first couple of years, he was like a little bit like a average defender, but now it's just like this guy does not help us on the defensive end. And with Lopez getting older, Giannis can't necessarily wipe away as much as he used to. He still can. It's just like I said, other people have to step up and help out. And again, Wisconsin's like not Wisconsin. Shoot, Milwaukee. Like with Damian Lillard, like Damian's not gonna help.
No,
he's not helping he's not helping us on the defensive end. So it's like it's making sure everybody defensively is like playing in like unison. And unfortunately against Boston, and again this is a second loss against Boston, and it's unfortunate. And again, Peyton Pritchard, another big game off the bench. A lot of people wanted Ryan Rollins minutes. Well, Ryan Rollins is going to get cooked by Peyton Pritchard from 3. So it's still just one of those things where it's like they know Boston has a good bench, but Jason Tatum finally had a big game this time. Peyton Pritchard was able to get some shots off. So, and again, Boston has a good team around them. Okay, around Brown and Tatum. Al Horford can still play. Okay, he's still got some game left. Okay, and the guys coming off the bench are no scrubs. Xavier Tillman, not a scrub. Peyton Pritchard, not a scrub. Even Derek White, who's not a bench guy, but he's a guy who fills his role really, really well, and he's a valuable player on that team. So, I think when Milwaukee really missed the mark, especially like when it comes to these trades, is just getting those glue guys, right? Getting the guys who, a guy like a Derek White, like a glue guy, not a guy who's gonna, not a guy who could, he could score, but can he also play a little defense and do the little things to help a team win? And it just feels like Milwaukee has, for quite some time, but kind of struggling to find a guy who can do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and it's always hard for when Giannis and Lillard are playing practically the entire first quarter, and I feel like as a fan, you shouldn't be frustrated to see Giannis go off and see Bobby and Pat Connaughton come in. You should be able to trust your bench a lot more, and to see Giannis sit down and Bobby Portis kind of fill that spot. It's frustrating sometimes just because you kind of have an expectation of what potentially is going to happen. It's just been a lot of Giannis carrying us. And again, our guys do not match up well with the Celtics bench just in general, just because, again, a lot of their bench guys could easily be starters on lower producing teams in the league and could still thrive, I feel like. But I know you mentioned about Ryan Rollins, and I was going to kind of mention him for like the next game. I slowly see a potential growth. I feel like in him, I feel like he could be the next AJ Green, as in not 3-point shooter, but that next random guy off of our bench to kind of be a production based player. But yeah, this game was not going to do that overall, but he did have 3 blocks. And I feel like that's something that kind of goes under the radar as a guard who only played 12 minutes. But yeah, just an overall kind of shitty game. Really hoping they could have held through, but again, right at the very end, they kind of slowly let loose and just was not able to climb back from the short deficit they made. I feel like it would be 11, then they'd get it to 6 or 7, and then they would give up 2 3-pointers, and then they just could not continue to make that sort of run near the end, and it just kind of gave up near the end, which is unfortunate, but not shocking.
Yep. So moving on to the next game. Now, this is a game that Milwaukee very well could have lost.
Correct.
This was actually the first game in the group stage in the NBA's play-in tournament, played against the Detroit Pistons. And this game went to overtime. Milwaukee was able to pull off the win, but the reason why I say they easily could have lost this game is because there was a Now, we can go back and forth on whether it was a foul on Giannis or not on Ken Holland. The refs called it. Honestly, it does us no good to complain about like the refs making that call because at the end of the day, nobody's gonna remember it. They're just gonna chalk it up as a loss on the scoreboard. Like in the moment, you're gonna be like, "Oh my god!" Like I can't believe they, like nobody's gonna remember a foul call in like November. Like nobody's gonna remember that. So, unfortunately, Milwaukee very well could have only had 3 wins this week, 3 wins on the season. Because Giannis was called for a foul on Ken Holland. Luckily, he missed 2 free throws, and Milwaukee was able to dominate in overtime. And Giannis also had a really dominant game. He had his 9th over 50-point performance in his career.
Yep.
And they really needed him because, just one of those things where Lillard's not out and someone's got to carry the scoring load. So what did you see in Milwaukee's performance against Detroit?
Overall, this was this was their best game. I feel like overall now it didn't kind of go the way they wanted to near the end with the lead that they slowly gave up. But I don't know. I felt confident with how Giannis was playing, but also how everyone else around him was playing. Obviously, Giannis having a monster night, almost a triple-double, just a few assists away. But, Gary Trent Jr., 3 for 5 from the 3. I felt like that was something that kind of went under the radar. But I felt like Brook Lopez also deserves his flowers as well. He killed it that night, 29 points. But the biggest, I feel like, is 5 blocks and 3 steals. You don't really see Brook Lopez stealing a lot, and to be able to come up with 3 and then also 5 blocks, one of them being probably one of my favorite blocks from him, that one on the fast break dunk attempt by Cade Cunningham, hyping himself up, kind of smack himself on the chest. But I just felt a lot of momentum running to them, which is why the loss against the Hornets really sucked. We did skip over the Raptors game that they did win too. We can always go back to that one. You're muted, Corey.
Yes, we did. I'm glad you brought that up because I was trying to think of it's been a long week. Okay,
it has.
So we can
go back to it after this one.
We could go back to it. We can go back to it. Thank you for bringing that up because I was like, I know they had another
else this week.
They did something else, and I forgot which one it was. So yeah, we'll get back to the Raptors right after we get to the Pistons. Look, the important thing is they won 2 games. I don't know if it really matters what order it was in, but they won 2 games this week.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to the Pistons. Yeah, really just an impressive win. Cade Cunningham, good game. Isaiah Stewart, really hard foul on Giannis. Just
it's always the randoms doing it, I feel like.
Just rip that man down.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, no, that was definitely the turning point of the game. I felt like that was where their momentum turned. And it kind of sucks, though, because they had such a huge push right after that happened. Then they slowly kind of gave it right back up. But, definitely did not take their foot off the gas on that. That was one of the dirtier plays I've seen. Obviously, it didn't end with an injury, so we can kind of thank for that. But just kind of big game, like you said, from Cade Cunningham. Michael Beasley, of course, decided to have one of his better games against us. His once in a blue moon 8 3-pointer game when he would be on our team, of course, is happening with the Pistons against us. My favorite thing was every time he would make a 3-pointer in the corner, he would just look at the bench as if he didn't choose to leave and go to the Pistons. Anyways, that's not my decision. But no, I feel like with that game, obviously Taurean Prince, he took quite a few shots, but I feel like a lot of the ones he hit were pivotal. But I felt like there were just so many things that they've been doing wrong this season or haven't been going well for them. Turn that around. Giannis had 17 free throws, made 16 of them. They shot 43 from 3. Turnover is still over 10, but obviously you can't just not have a turnover. But they were able, I feel like, to just kind of pick up themselves in some of the areas that they've been struggling with again. And I just felt like only playing with the 8 guys that they were still able to kind of turn it around. And I'm very glad they won this game because that would have been a doozy one to lose after coming all the way back and having it go down to that last possession. I don't think I've ever like jumped that high before or was in so much shock seeing the 2 missed free throws, but that was the point where it's like, all right, you got to win this now. And they did not hold back the start of the overtime with 3-pointers from Giannis, from Brook Lopez, all those guys just being able to kind of step up together. So one of my favorite games I feel like I've watched the Bucks play in recent years.
Yeah, no, they came guns blazing out of overtime. I was extremely impressed to see that. Giannis, it was in a flash. The overtime was just over. Lopez hit a three, Giannis hit a three, and Giannis hit a jumper. So I mean, it was just, pew, pew, pew. It was just. Let's just end this right now. So very impressed to see that. Let's just get back to. Let's get to the Toronto game since I erroneously skipped over that one.
Yeah, you said overtime. Like, did this one also go into overtime? I didn't remember.
No, it didn't. I just mixed up because I knew they beat the Pistons, but I forgot the other team that they had beaten, even though I had it written down. So, Milwaukee. I was able to knock off Toronto at 99-85. Big game from Giannis. It was. Actually, this was the first. This was the first game in group stage.
Correct. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So now we got that straight. Giannis, great game from Giannis. Grady Dick. That last name will never not be fine to me. That poor guy. 99-85. Grady Dick, 32 points.
Very high.
Big performance for him. Giannis had 23. Lopez 13, AJ Green 12, Ryan Rollins 12. BP, the Milwaukee Bucks pariah, 17 points. So I guess what did you see Milwaukee's performance against Toronto?
It was nice. This was like their best defensive game I felt overall, besides being able to stop Grady Dick right before or few hours before the game started. My brother texted me. He's like, well, no OG Anunoby and no Emmanuel Quickly. So I'm assuming the Bucks will lose because, we find ways to do that. And I texted him like, I'm sure they'll be their ninth man will go off. And he's like, yeah, Grady Dick will drop 25. And then he ends up dropping a career high. So very predictable. But yeah, I feel like he was the only one who was really carrying the load for them. 32 points out of their 85 is a large margin of points to ratio to everyone else. But yeah, no, I just kind of felt their defense finally clicked this game, which sucks because they didn't score a lot either. They still won by double digits, but yeah, their defense just hasn't been good. Obviously, we'll get into that into the Hornets game, but no, it's just kind of a good way to start the in-season tournament. It would be really funny if the Bucks could like somehow find a way to like win the in-season tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if they suck in the regular season, but we got this tournament and they'll kind of kick into high gear. But yeah, no, they debuted the courts. The court looks a lot better from last year. I feel like all the courts last year were just horrible. But yeah, no, like how you said, I felt like everyone really on the Bucks was more a lot closer together. It wasn't a Giannis 50-point game or 40 to 50-point game, and everyone else kind of chipped in. It was 23, 13, 17, couple 12s. But this is where I was going to kind of mention Ryan Rollins for this game. So he played 22 minutes, 4 for 7 from 3. He shot 5 other shot attempts that were not 3-pointers and missed them. But if you take away that and look at his 3-pointers, he shot almost 60%. But the other thing I wanted to mention was his 5 steals. And then DeLon Wright also had 5 steals. So again, defensively, this was one of their better games. And it sucks that Rollins ended up being hurt and hasn't played since. Because obviously it sucks when you have such a good game and you're coming off your first career start and now you're hurt. But I feel like this is like slowly a potential emergence of a guy who can be a decent guard off their bench. Felt confident with him. Obviously, he took a little too many shots outside of the 3-pointers. But I felt good in his defensive end, just being able to grab a few rebounds, have a large amount of steals this game. And kind of hold off on turnovers and fouls just in general. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say on this one outside of just, again, an overall win and a win that they definitely should have had no problems with. Did start off kind of slow. I felt like the Raptors kind of hung in there for a little too long that they should have. But once that second half started, they were able to kind of pull away and do a lot better. Thankfully, just because it's, I don't know, it's the Raptors. They're worse than us, which is saying a lot. But yeah, outside of that first half, they just kind of started to slowly pick it up, thankfully.
Yeah, they did.
Lots of turnovers, too, from the Raptors as well.
Yep. No, and you're right about that because, what I think they did a good job of doing is kind of holding and the Raptors aren't supposed to be a good team this year. And again, I'm not taking much away from this game because the Raptors are probably going to be a lottery selection. I don't know if they're going to be vying for the number one spot, but still. It's just one of those things where glad that they were able to hold to 85, but I would like to see them beat like a quality team. They just haven't done that yet, unfortunately. So, beating Utah and beating, I'm already Detroit, beating Toronto. I'm not saying they're like win's a win, but it's like they got to start. We got to start being high quality competition here, and even being Philly, like they haven't been a good team yet, and they've lost twice against Boston, which I'm very disappointed to hear about that and see that. So, they just got to start knocking off like high quality teams, and they haven't done that yet. So hopefully they can kind of go on a run here in this in-season tournament. So good win for Milwaukee. Moving on to the next game. A loss to the Charlotte Hornets. This game was bullshit. Yep. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna be completely honest. I mean, it was close throughout. Don't get me wrong, but the game ended on a phantom foul call. I believe it was on Giannis on LaMelo Ball, where the refs thought that he tripped over Giannis's foot, or Giannis tripped him, but it turns out he tripped on his own foot. Doc Rivers obviously criticized the refs after the game, deservedly so.
He got fined not too long ago.
Doc Rivers?
Yep, $25K.
Yeah, that's it. But the thing is like the refs should the refs.
Correct.
I hate when coaches get fined for that because it was an awful call.
And then after the game, they have to come out and be like, actually, it wasn't a foul. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Okay, so if it's not a foul, then Doc has every right to be like, that call was horseshit.
And they reviewed it too.
I don't know if they couldn't review that one because they ran out of challenges.
Did they? Okay.
But the thing is like, if the ref agrees that it was an awful call and the guy still gets criticized, or if Doc Rivers is like, yeah, that was a bad call, and the ref agrees, then how is he still getting the fine? I don't like the fact that coaches get fined for criticizing refs in the first place. I feel as though if you make a horseshit call, you should be called out on it. This is the fucking NBA. Okay, this is not like your daughter's soccer game. Okay, every single game counts. So I just don't understand why you have to take money out of a coach's or a player's paycheck just because the ref made a fucking horseshit call because they're too sensitive to like actually go up in front of a press conference to answer some of these questions. And I'm not talking about a pool reporter either. Okay, I'm talking about like they should have to go up in front in some of these press conferences, get asked like 6 or 7 questions by a reporter, and they should have to answer what they saw on that play and just get fucking grilled. Because I don't think it's completely fair, the fact that a player or a coach has to answer for that. It's like, no, I didn't make the call.
Yeah.
The guy who gets
play down for me. Tell me why it was a foul.
Yes. But it's like, oh, it gives the NBA. No, it doesn't. Okay? We've had bad refs for years. All right? And luckily, these refs are getting way too old, so they're starting to get weeded out. But seriously, like Scott Foster, like, by all intents and purposes, is one of the best refs in the NBA, according to studies. But the way he holds grudges against players, I don't think
Mhm.
that's okay. But what again? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You just gotta deal with it. And again, and I understand because like it is a little bit of a double-edged sword because like you don't want to blame the refs for every single call,
Correct.
but that call did decide the game.
Especially them coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, it wasn't a foul."
Well, the complaint I do have though is even though it was a shitty call, Milwaukee still had a chance to win the game. I didn't like the play on the last one.
Yep, I was gonna say that too. You have 6 seconds and you have Giannis take a jump shot. Now, don't get me wrong; he's like third in jump shots made this season. But when you don't have 2 seconds, you have 7 seconds. That is plenty of time to get to the hoop, and you're down 1 point. Anything wins it. That was the most frustrating part.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I don't. Like I said, I don't mind. I don't mind Giannis taking. I don't know if I necessarily want him taking a shot for a jump shot to end the game.
Yes.
He's made those. Like he made it against New York that one time. That was like 8 years ago almost. But still, I'm not. That's not necessarily one where I want to be like, yeah, this is a shot I want to end the game.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
I will take mid-range Giannis all day, but not to end the game. I would like to see him go to the basket on Grant Williams because I don't think Grant Williams could guard him one-on-one, and I think he could have like drawn a foul or something. But yeah, I just wasn't a fan of him settling for Doc Rivers having him settle for like a jump shot to end the game.
Correct.
That's not like teams will take that all day. So, and if I'm a defender, I'll live with that. But Giannis is taking a jumper. I will live with that all day and night.
Yeah, and I think a big thing also that frustrated me was just like their lack of defense this game. I felt like, I don't know, giving up 115 points isn't the greatest. But when you have a 39-point first quarter and you're only up by 6 points going to the second quarter, it's kind of a crappy look, especially knowing that they didn't hit 30-plus points for the rest of the game. No one did. But I feel like the Bucks recently have just been peaking in the first quarter and then just kind of falling apart from there. But, yeah, it's just wide open shots and offensive rebounds I feel like have just killed them. I could like wholeheartedly say 3 or 4 of their wins have been strictly off of second chance points and wide open 3-pointers have been. I mean, that you have that with the Cavs game. The Cavs are still undefeated and the Bucks had 2 huge opportunities to beat them. But yeah, no, just a shitty loss, but yeah, still other things obviously outside of the non-call. You can blame the game on that, but still there's other ways that the Bucks should have clearly won this game.
Offensive rebounding is one that comes top of mind. The rebounding in this game was horrible. I believe, and if you want to check your stats, I believe they had 18 or 19 offensive rebounds around that area.
Yeah, the Bucks had 8. They had 16. One guy alone had 10 offensive rebounds. I don't know how to say his last name, but the Diabate.
Oh, yeah.
He had 10 offensive rebounds off the bench. He had more offensive rebounds than he had defensive rebounds. 10-4.
Yeah, it's not good. It's just
that.
And the frustrating part about that one would be it would be off a mid. Like Milwaukee would just score one on the other end, and Milwaukee would just score, and then they came back in the other end. Charlotte would miss, and then they would just come back and just
correct, and then grab it. Oop, yep, basket. Cool, thank you, and then they move on.
It's frustrating. And look, LaMelo Ball had a good game. He is very much one of the best young players in the league. Even with Andre Jackson Jr. guarding him, who, by the way, Ajax showed some range.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that
he was in that game.
Oh yeah, he was on one. So Ajax had a good game from 3, which is kind of a shocking statement in and of itself. But then they just couldn't stop LaMelo Ball. You can't give one guy 10 offensive rebounds and expect to win. And you can't give one team. You said 16 offensive rebounds?
Correct. Yep, and that one guy had 10 of them.
Yeah, see, that's not good. That's not good. That just shows that, Brook Lopez isn't what he used to be. That just shows Bobby Portis isn't what he used to be. Like, it's just, you got to, allowing that many offensive rebounds, I think it's all about mentality. And getting a rebound in general is all about like if you want it or not. And it just feels like right now Milwaukee's just kind of waiting for it to come to them. It just feels like not everyone is rebounding in unison.
That's literally what it is. They box out everyone, but then they all just stare at the ball, expecting it to just zoop right into their hands, and then they watch it get picked up. And it's happened way too many times. And it happened late in that game too. That was a pivotal possession that they could have gained momentum on, but no, they just kind of give it right back up and dish it out to the three. Boom, 3 points that were completely unearned because of the lack of, I don't know, just grabbing a rebound. They can box out, they just can't finish it.
Yeah, the part that people will forget about with that controversial call is that Pat Connaughton made the go-ahead shot for Milwaukee to go up late. That's the craziest part about this is Pat Connaughton made the shot to have Milwaukee go up late.
Yeah, literally, I was gonna say you actually have a good game from your bench outside of AJ Green, who only had 2 points. But you have 21 from Bobby, 10 from Pat, and 10 from Gary Trent, and you still end up losing. It's like Pat just gave you a historical run right there with his 2 3-pointers. Huge near the end with his mid-range, and then again that 3-pointer, like you said. But yeah, just you spoil it. But those 2 shots gave Pat Connaughton another month's worth of minutes.
So, frustrating loss, but they're back at it tomorrow. You want to read out that schedule? Who are they playing tomorrow?
We got the Rockets tomorrow at home. And again, the Rockets are a team continuing to look at Giannis in case they trade him. But yeah, they got Rockets tomorrow, Wednesday home against the Bulls, and then Friday home as well. They have 4 home games, and that Friday game against the Pacers is game 2 of the tournament.
All right. I gotta admit, I don't know. I don't think this would happen, but a Rockets team with Giannis, that team would look nice. To be quite honest with you, with all that young talent, it won't happen. I'm not Giannis is not gonna be traded by Milwaukee, guarantee it. But I mean, trade to Houston, that would be, I'm just gonna say it. That team would look nice. They're not hypothetically. Won't happen though. It won't happen. I'm just. But Houston. So Evan, you got anything else?
One really quick thing I saw. I don't really follow the Herd as much, but one of their guys the other day, Steven Thompson, dropped 40 points. First one of the season in the G League. 40 points, 5 rebounds, 5 steals, and 6 3-pointers. Shot 15 of 24. I don't know, just a 6'4" guard, maybe someone to look out for just in case they need someone to bring up potentially down the road. And then I think the other day he had another 31-point game. I could totally be wrong. It could be a different guy, but I'm pretty sure he had a 40 and then a 31-point game back-to-back. So I don't know, just kind of something interesting just in case something were to potentially happen down the road. But yeah, no, that's pretty much all I got. And they got 3 games. I got 4 games this week. Hornets again on Saturday. Yeah, looking at the Bulls again, they've already played them. Hornets again, they've already played them. So 2 new teams, just kind of hoping they can obviously split the series, go 2 for 2, the worst outcome.
Yep. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.